this video, let's talk about being able to target different bots, versions of bots, from different providers. One of the key concepts to understand when dealing with prompts and AI is that if you don't have access to the prompt, you're at a disadvantage in understanding how the AI is going to respond. Do you trust the prompt that someone else created? Is it better if you create it yourself? Great questions to ask, and it depends on your use case or situation. In this example I'm about to show us, I'm the one who's built the prompt. Could I have an AI build me this prompt? For sure. Could I have a prompt builder tool build me this prompt? Yes. But can I do it on my own as well? Certainly. But if you're using a tool that doesn't expose the prompt that is being sent along with the data, then you might be experiencing some things that you need to question as to why. So here we have the latest of ChatGPT 4.0 from OpenAI and the latest from Anthropic. We do have the ability to actually challenge different large language models, and I say challenge because that's what we're doing. So if certain prompts perform better and the data is consistent, where is the differentiator here? Is it in the large language model? This is something we have to understand at this point in the evolution of large language models and natural language processing. We don't know what we don't know, famous statement, but the key I'm trying to understand and convey is that you're going to get different results depending on the large language model you are targeting. Those results are dependent on the data and the prompt. So here again, if you don't have insight into the prompt, you're only seeing half of what's going on. And as we can see here with the two latest models again, ChatGPT 4.0 and Claude 3.5 Sonnet, the GPT, the OpenAI, is saying, well, there's a 53% impact here, and the Claude environment, Anthropic, is saying, no, we're thinking more of a 64%. Now, as we look at the grids, and the layout can change, right? The layout is not deterministic here. We could certainly put the charts below the tables, put the tables side by side. There's a lot of things you could do here to play around. You could combine things. Again, that's not the premise behind what I'm trying to communicate in this video. The premise is, look, we've got a 30% versus a 60 interpretation. It's the same prompt. Again, the AI is an assistant. It's not a replacement for humans. 85, 85, 70, 75. So this is our biggest differentiator at this time. As we look, a 25 versus a 40. Well, these are just numbers. There's no real, that's the key to understanding what is happening in a probabilistic sense. It's a great assistant. It is giving at least that high-level look to say, oh, you probably should target the indemnification clause or this clause. We've got the highest risk here. And then as you look at the other percentages, you can draw your own conclusions. But why did the one model return greater severity than the other? Well, it comes down to some of the training data. It comes down to the probabilistic nature of that large language model. Does it mean that the LLMs are not worth utilizing? No, I would argue that the LLMs are definitely worth utilizing as an assistant, but not as a replacement for the human. The amount of effort that it would have taken me to build this table, and by build it, it's an open source library, so is the charting. But by building, if you go and look at my prompt, I instruct the LLM on how I want the output to be. And that, for all intents and purposes, is the retrieval augmented generation part, the RAG part of this. I would have had to have written more code to have the data formatted in this markup. So this is HTML markup. So I gave it a couple examples for lows and mediums and highs of how I wanted the markup to appear. And the large language model complied, more or less, with that. Now I say more or less because I have seen some hallucinations even in the most current models. So you have to understand a little bit. The prompt here is guiding the large language model. So in this regard, it's an assistant to me. It meant that it would be able to return for me the markup that I needed so that I could very easily have it be thrown into this awesome open source tabular jQuery grid. And this is datatables.net. This is chart.js. Fantastic open source libraries, just beyond measure super. And if you've never used them before, highly recommend using them. They're just really great. Datatables.net, chart.js. But the point I'm making here is this, the row data that came back, that was created, and then I just consumed it and sent it into the grid for rendering. That saved me a ton of time. Saved me a ton of time of parsing through the results, building the markup that I needed, and then sending it through. And with those results that came through, I was able to then very concisely write some code, which I could have had the AI try to write for me as well and put in my page to then feed into the charting tool. So there's benefits here, tremendous benefits that with my knowledge, but again, I think I could have had the AI create a lot of this and through trial and error still had it built. But with my knowledge, it expedited my ability to provide this type of a UI UX. Now the analysis piece and the percentage ratings, those are all coming from the probabilistic nature of the LLM. Again, I think that's important. I think that's tremendous value that can drive, okay, eyeballs on here, right? I need to take a look at this because there is the highest issue. So if you're pressed for time, if you don't have that ability to slog through lots and lots of data, now this is contractual data, but it doesn't matter. It could be data from IoT devices that are monitoring offshore oil rigs. But how does the human in the loop determine what to look at quickly in the event something's running a little too hot and it could cause harm to humans or the environment, etc., so forth? We've got data everywhere. How can we distill it in a way that instead of spending that time doing it quote unquote by hand, we actually have this assistant help us? So this is an example that I wanted to illustrate for folks to see we can run different models in a competition, if you will. If you want to consider it a competition, that's fine, that's great. I think it's just an awareness principle here that I'm trying to communicate, that with different models, we get some different results. And with even running against the same model, it's very possible we can get some different results. So please know the AI is an assistant and not a replacement for the human. But it's a supremely beneficial assistant in that it can aid you in your daily travels with data. Thanks.